welcome. I'm John, and let's talk about South America. So, we live in Medellin, Colombia, and an international friend of mine was asking if I was going to do a video about Colombian wine, because let's face it, Colombia is known for its incredible coffee, its fruit, its crops, everything. So let's walk around our lake house grounds a little bit. And what you're going to see here is that we have avocados, we have lime trees, we have so much more. This area of Colombia is the second largest exporter of flowers in the world. But there is something we don't have here, which is wine grapes. And the reason why is actually kind of fascinating. So we're at about 4 degrees north of the equator. And so despite the fact that we have great agriculture, something just doesn't exist here, and that's a wine grape. And the importance of location is what we're going to talk about. Wine grapes thrive in what we call the wine belt. So these are regions of the world that are located roughly between 30 and 50 degrees latitude in both hemispheres. But why? So it's about the annual cycle. So wine grapes need distinct seasons, they need day to night temperature changes, they need winter dormancy, and they need longer summer days during the growing season. And here in Colombia, our days and nights are consistent. We basically have 12 hours year round. So while that's great for coffee, tropical fruits, it doesn't have the stress that's necessary for wine grapes. And so that brings us to the powerhouses of South America, Chile and Argentina, which are both perfectly positioned within the wine belt. Let's start with Chile. Now, Chile has a remarkable wine culture. So the country has perfect growing conditions, but it's really about the producers there who are kind of creating these iconic wines that have met more and more international acclaim. So we need to mention one of these wines, Don Melchor. This actually just won the Wine Spectator Wine of the Year. It's made by a big producer called Concha and Toro, but it's their special wine. And this special wine, which was roughly $125 in the United States, is called the Malbec of the Andes, is where it comes from. And this is because it's a well-draining rocky area that is kind of like the great regions in Bordeaux. There's a big day to night temperature swing, and there's just perfect conditions in this location for this special wine. And this has individual parcels within the Puente Alto where it's grown. It has Cabernet character. You can age it, and it is just one of the best in the world. And so this was an example of a wine that helped prove that Chile could, in fact, grow great Cabernet grapes that could rival those of Napa or Bordeaux. They do taste a little bit different, though. But also Chile brought us something else, Carmenere. So this was thought to be an extinct grape after the phylloxera crisis in Europe, and it turned out that they had it still right there in Chile. And it has a really special, unique taste. And we're gonna taste it in a little bit. So, crossing over the Andes in Argentina, we find a completely different wine region, and this is centered around Malbec and Mendoza. An Argentinian kind of wine success comes from high altitude, comes from intense sunlight, low rainfall, in poor draining soils. Think more desert than you think about as great agricultural land. But what that does for the Malbec is incredible. It's got incredible color. It's got a strong purple. It's really special. And of course, it has cool nights, and that helps with the acid. It has natural pest resistance because of the climate. It really is special. And so here we have a Catena Zapata, which is one of the biggest producers in Argentina. And so what makes these kind of special is, amongst other things, that there's lower land costs than places in France or Napa Valley. So the wines themselves are going to be cheaper. They do have modern production facilities, and they don't need a lot of intervention. Because of the way that the weather is there, it's almost perfect for wine production. And they also have now established their export infrastructure. So that the lower cost of labor makes these great wines for value. When you consider the best wine in Chile is maybe $125, the best one In Argentina, it might be $200, which is much lower than the $1,000 and $2,000 from other areas. Listen, this is a great wine success story when you think about it. Here in Colombia, we do get wine all the time from Chile. We get it from Argentina, and we also get it from Spain. And part of that is cultural, that it fits well with the food and that it fits well within the culture. But these are the wines that you find in the grocery store here. So let's go over, let's try some Carmenere and enjoy a little bit of a toast to South America. All right, let's taste some Carmenere. This is the Carbon Grand Reserva Carmenere. What is interesting about this particular wine is that Carmen was the location where they figured out in 1994 that this grape wasn't actually Merlot. It was its own distinct type of grape called Carmenere. And why Carmenere was such a surprising find is that there was a belief that during the Phylloxera attack in France more than 150 years ago, that had killed the last of the Carmenere. Carmenere was grown as a Bordeaux mixing grape. So this spot about 30 years ago figured out that this was its distinct grape, which is now really well known as something that specifically comes from Chile. This is not an expensive bottle. It's about $15, $16. And as we start to take a look at the color, you can take a look and see that it's a deep purple, but there is some lightness to the rim. And that lightness actually changes a little bit in color, much like Merlot does. And so that was part of the reason. As we take a swirl, there is such a distinctive smell to Carmenere. There's black pepper and there's kind of the plummy smell that you will get out of a Merlot, but there is a distinct green pepper smell. It's like a bell pepper green smell. And some people love it and some people hate it, but it is distinctive and is very different about this particular wine. It's just interesting because as you taste it, it is much easier to drink than it is to smell. It is light in tannins, so it's easy to drink. It is not a long aging potential wine. It's something you buy, it's something you drink right away, and you get all those plummy flavors, and then it kind of finishes with that more distinctive green kind of taste to it. And so it's not quite as strong on the mouth as it is on the nose, but Carmenere, try it out. Something different, something from Chile, something that'll give you a little taste of what life might have been like in France 150 years ago.